That is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. As of this recording, right this very second, we are 1 day, 20 hours, 29 minutes, 32 seconds away from the 2025 NFL Draft. Round 1, day 1. It can't get here fast enough. It really can't.
I'm good.
I love draft week. I love the draft because it's just all hope. You know what I mean? It's like you're sitting down at a poker table at the beginning of a tournament. You have your chips, you have your opposition. You're like, we're gonna walk away winners. We're gonna come away with a fat fucking stack. And quit my job and give a double bird to the boss. It feels that way. But you know what ruins it for me? Draft coverage. If I have to hear someone's like 37th mock draft one more time, if I have to hear some like random blogger, some like random SEC blogger from Mississippi who's like, yeah, Jackson Dart's going number 1 overall, I have inside info. Like, I'm going to blow my brains out. Like, it's just the worst coverage. It's just nonstop bullshit. And it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's bullshit, but I like the
shit, elephant shit, alligator shit.
No. I like to cover the mocks just to kind of see what people's heads are at. Don't get me wrong. There's a few where I'm just like, dude, this is complete nonsense. I'm not even gonna freaking talk about this.
Mocks are fun to do. I'll do a mock draft for fun, but being like, you know, some dude at ESPN's like, all right, guys, this is mock draft 6.0. This is the one that really means it. You're like, okay, bro. Like,
no, there's a few out there that are pretty good. Like the Dame Brugler's the Beast one is really good. Because
that's just player coverage, which is great.
No, he has a mock draft too.
Well, the Beast is his like giant book of like 500 college players, which is awesome.
But he has a Beast mock draft that he does. That's good.
Which I can't stand.
Yeah,
no mock draft is good.
The mock drafts are good. Well, we're going to disagree then. I want to give counterpoints to that, but you're making it kind of difficult. So,
well, yeah, because you're arguing a point that's impossible. Like mock drafts are fun. Mock drafts are fun to do.
Argue a reason why they're not complete bullshit, and you're not willing to listen to it. So,
they're fun to do with your buddies to fuck around, but it's not like Brugler knows what's going to happen, or anyone knows what's Kuiper. No one knows.
I disagree. But...
And there's so much, and there's so much. Like, okay, this journalist clearly got a text from a junior assistant scout in Jacksonville that says, "Hey guys, we want Mason Graham to look shitty. Say that, you know, his interview went terrible." And there's 1,000 of those things that go on 1,000 times a day leading up to the draft. And it's just too much. It's just dry. It's just so much of that. Insider says your favorite team's GM picked up the phone today. You're like, oh, sweet. Player X is definitely not going to team Y. You're like, oh, okay. Like, how do you know that? Why would that GM tell you that? Why would the GM of this team be like, you know what? I'm going to tell you my draft plans. That's what we're going to do. And it's just like, I'm just bombarded with this constantly, all day, all week until the draft's over. It's too much because you want to find good shit, right? Like, you're excited for the draft. Like, I'm excited for this weekend. So it's like, oh man, let's look up some draft stuff. And it's just, here's my 37th fucking mock draft. Here's, you know, and there's always like some guy who says he's an insider and there's like a consensus. He's like, yeah, Cam Ward's not going number 1 overall. You're like, okay. Can we please get to the draft so this can stop?
Well, we're almost there.
1 hour or 1 day. What did I say?
20 hours.
1 day, 20 hours as of this recording. I do love some good tape study, though. I'm a sucker for some good tape study. I know you hate the, like, you know, here's like a 7th rounder backup guard. That's like a gem. I love that shit. Just like random stuff. when I did Cofield's show today, Adam Hill's like, yeah, dude, there's this Sac State guard that you line him up against.
Jackie Slater's kid.
Yeah. Like if you line him up against Jackson Powers Johnson, JPJ, it's just gonna be them just mauling people. I'm like, what am I gonna learn about a Sac State guard? You know what I mean? Like what? Like how's that gonna? When is that gonna come across my desk? You know, when's that gonna hit my Twitter feed?
I did my homework on it. JB Slater.
JPJ and JP Slater. Get our J's on.
Yeah, just check Jackie Slater's kid. Yeah, man, there's a few good guys, but I mean, because I do tape study, and that's why I like certain mock drafts, because they're not insider guys. Like Dane Brugler is not an insider; he's a scout.
Yeah. So
his mock draft is a little bit different than other guys who are like Mel Kiper's a shill, dude. He used to be a scout, but now he's just a figurehead.
He's an info merchant.
He's a complete shill, and that's fine. Let's just all just call it what it is. And so I don't take anything that really anyone from ESPN that says anything from ESPN. I take with a grain of salt, because they're all bought and paid for. They're basically newscasters. That's all they are. They just read what other people write them. They read the teleprompter. They don't really do their own work.
The journalists they're in. Well, Mel Kiper for sure has like connections and gets information, but what they are, they're info merchants.
They're all actors.
They're info merchants. So they'll get like
to get to that point, they do have to have some talent. They have to have some journalistic talent. Once they get on ESPN, they cease to become journalists. They're not journalists any longer. They are paid actors. So the point I'm getting to is I have done a lot of work, and that's why I knew exactly who you were talking about right away, the Sac State guy. Mm-hmm. And that's why I do like the Dane Brugler one is the one that I really like the most, is because he gives you an in-depth of how this person fits in this, not just the head coach or the style, but like he goes down to like, he fits the blocking scheme of this offensive coordinator. He fits the defensive scheme. These all fit in a certain way. So I like to look at the logic behind the pick, not just, I'm just going to pick this guy, he's the next guy in line. No, it makes a little bit more sense when you have a guy that knows he watches the tape.
Yeah, Brugler's big. He's worth the subscription to The Athletic by itself. That 500 person fucking draft, right? Like we're spoiled, dude.
Tafer and Reed, those guys are good.
Yeah, Ted Wynn, good too.
Ted Wynn, yeah, those guys are really good.
You can tell the Raiders are a big deal because, like, you've seen The Athletic. They fired their was it Indiana, Wisconsin? The beat writer that covered a Big Ten school. Like, it wasn't just some it wasn't some shitty like Eastern Illinois Tech. Like, it was a Big Ten school, and they just fired their beat writers. Like, hey, we're just not going to dedicate a beat writer to this school. And there was another one, SEC or another Big Ten, that like earlier in the month they just done. And the Raiders have 2.5 beat writers. They've got 2 full-time beat writers, and Ted Wynn's an X's and O's guys for all of the NFL, but he's a Raider guy, and he hosts the Raiders podcast that they do. So it's the Raiders get 2.5 beat writers. That just goes to show you how popular the Raiders are. It's just there's just so much desire for Raiders content that we need 2.5 dudes to do this. When all right, we'll just have the guy from Illinois also do Wisconsin.
And they're not young guys out of college either. These are legit dudes who can go anywhere else and write and be the main guy. And they're good, man. I really like the Raider coach from The Athletic.
Yeah, I signed with The Athletic when I subscribed. It was 5 years ago for all the MMA coverage, because that's when they hired Chuck Mindenhall, Ben Folks, all these long-time MMA writers. I'm oh wow, Athletic's really making a play in MMA. I gotta subscribe. And they did it for a year and then gave up. But then I found all of their NFL and college football coverage. I was like, dude, it's
solid.
So good. And then now it's, playoff hockey season. King game last night was insane. Pretty good hockey. Anyway, I swear we're not paid by The Athletic. We just generally think it's worth the subscription. NFL draft. It's 3 days, 7 rounds, 32 teams, 257 players selected. It's finally here. And we're talking about, there's a lot of information merchants That's more like what I call them. You kind of look at them more as paid actors. Either way, we're not taking what they say as gospel. So what can you trust? What's something that you can always trust? What never ever lies in anything? Business, politics, relationships. What's one thing that never lies? The money.
I mean, the results.
If you follow the money.
Oh yeah, the money.
Follow the money, you'll always get towards the truth, right? And so I always like to look at betting odds with anything. Now, in fairness, Vegas and the bookies, they shape the odds based on the betting public. So what the public is doing orchestrates what the odds do, right? So again, it's not perfect. It's not like these odds are going to be perfectly dictated, but the websites, the bookies, Vegas, like they actually have skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
If some writer says, Jackson Dart's going number 1 overall, he doesn't lose anything if he's wrong. How does that affect him, right? Doesn't do anything. If the bookies are wrong, it could cost them millions. So they're the ones most invested. So that's where I go to get kind of a gauge, the closest thing I can find to a good gauge of where things are going. It's not going to be perfect. It's for sure going to be wrong a bunch of places, but that's where the stakes are highest. That's where people actually have skin in the game if they get something wrong. So that's where I go. What can we learn from the odds coming out? A bunch of things. So first off, I used just DraftKings just because it's the most extensive. Again, not paid by them. If you like them, great. But it's one of the biggest companies, the most extensive. The number 1 overall pick, Cameron Ward, minus 20,000. Right? Absolute no-brainer. And then it starts going down. Abdul Carter, plus 3,000. Travis Hunter, plus 5,000. Shedeur Sanders, plus 8,000. Ashton Jeanty, Jackson Dart, 15,000. That was plus 2,000, kind of wild. And then the next one. This is the one that gets really interesting. Draft position over-unders. So the Las Vegas Raiders are number 6, right? We pick 6. And there have been no trades in the first round. First time since like 87 or something like that. That this close to the draft, there hasn't been a first round trade, which is kind of wild. And kind of goes to show you that like the quarterbacks, no one thinks that highly of this quarterback class because no one's falling over themselves and sacrificing the future to grab one, right? They're just kind of like, if it comes to us, we'll give it a stab. Ashton Jeanty, right? A lot of people have been picking him to come to the Raiders. 6.5 is the over-under. Over 6.5 plus 300. So you have to bet $100 and you'll get 300. So it's not likely that's going to be over 6.5. Under 6.5 minus 425. So they really think he's going to go
425 to win 100.
Yeah, you have to bet 425 to win 100 for those of you who don't gamble. So minus 425, it's basically over 4-1 odd. They think that he will be drafted under 6.5 rounds. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Right? I think that's good. I think that's good to pay attention to because that's been the big talking point, right? The late chatter. Someone is telling everybody Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders is the thing to be talking about. And the odds are falling in line with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it makes a lot of sense. And as much as Spytek and Carroll try to play it close to the vest, there's just bound to be some leak here and there. And it wouldn't be a bad pick. I think he's probably one of the better players in this draft. I've called him one of the elite 4 or 5 players in this entire draft. Probably 4. I would say 4 elite players in this draft. So, yeah, man, I'm down with it if we get him. One thing that Spytek said in his video, which was really good, was he said, "What's the bigger net positive? Is getting the running back in the first round and getting a second round lineman a better net positive, or is it getting one of the better or best offensive linemen in the first round and then getting a really good running back still in this? Like, what's the bigger net positive there for the team?" That's another way to look at it too.
Other ones on which pick to bet, like if it's, pick number 2, Abdul Carter plus 550. Kind of juicy. I could see that happening over Travis Hunter. $100 to win 550. I can dig that. And here's the other interesting thing, Raider specific. Pick number 5. Ashton Jeanty minus 125. Shedeur Sanders plus 5,000. Pick number 6. Shedeur Sanders plus 2,000. It went from 5,000 to 2,000, going from number 5 to number 6, right? Jacksonville to the Raiders. So what that tells me, Soto, is that Vegas doesn't believe and the bettors don't believe that the league doesn't think the Raiders are going to draft Shedeur, so no one's going to trade above them to number 5 to try to get him. I don't think they're going to go that high, 1, and 2, they're not worried the Raiders really want him and that they're going to have to make that move because the odds dipped so far to number 6.
What's the number 7 for Shedeur?
Number 7 Shedeur is plus 2,200. So even bigger. So they still think the Raiders might do it, right? With Shedeur.
They think that the Raiders are more apt to do it than the Jets. It's still not very likely, though.
Not very likely, but they think it's, exactly.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Well, it's really tough to put these odds in. It's just, I think it's all playing on emotion because you don't know who's going to draft at 6. You don't know who's going to pick there.
Well, that's why that's embedded into the odds, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it's really tough to put anything on there. That's all I was saying. This is more, people, they're going to get a lot of bets on that, on number 6, I would say.
Yeah, and I also, and that's why it's plus 2,000 at number 7 as opposed to 2,200 at number 6 as opposed to 2,200 number 7 because they're getting money at number 6, right? Raider Nation's coming in thinking they're getting Shedeur Sanders, and so it's moving the line, right? The more you bet the line, the more it goes the other way, right? For people who don't gamble. So there's that one. Again, draft by position. Membu under 6.5 is plus 210. So if the Raiders draft him at 6, you get 2 to 1 on your money. So they don't think that's going to happen, or it's not plus 200, right? 210. Dart, basically even money under 24.5. They think he's for sure going in the first round.
Yeah, he probably will.
Mason Graham over 5.5 minus 215. So they think he's not making it, or they think he's not getting drafted before 5.
That'd be amazing.
Interesting, right? We'll just, all right. It leads perfectly to what we want. So the most important one to me, the one I like the most, and that tells us the most, is this one. Top 5 picks in exact order. This is a degenerate gambler's dream, right? It's like betting the trifecta at horse racing, but it's 5 and it's picks, right? This one's the best, and I'll tell you why. Number 1, right?
A superfecta right here.
Superfecta. Cameron Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Ashton Jeanty. That's the best odds, right? Minus 110. Basically even money to get that exact number, that exact route. So it's less important to me the exact order. It's just those 5 players off the board, right? Whether it goes in that order or opposite order, or Abdul Carter goes before Travis Hunter, it doesn't affect us, right? It's just who's off the board when we get to 6. This is best case scenario in my mind.
Mason Graham.
2 things. 1, we got Mason Graham if we want him right there. That's who I want, right? 2, Shedeur Sanders is on the board, and we can take trade pitches. It's like, hey, we're going Mason Graham. You guys worried that maybe the Jets will take him, or if the Jets will trade to somebody else? This is your opportunity. So we can trade Shedeur. We can trade the pick for someone who wants Shedeur, right? The Steelers predicted to want him. Colts might want him. Saints might want him. That one. The second best option is the next is the plus 550, the third one, where T-Mac goes at number 5. So now the people that are predicting that one's also good too, because we still can take Mason Graham if we want him. And now Ashton, not only Shedeur on the board for trade, but so is Ashton Jeanty. There's rumors that Denver wants to trade up for him. Like he's enough of a stud where there might be some trade chatter for him. Right? He's not a quarterback. That's what always moves the big things. And then the second most likely plus 245 is Mason Graham's off the board, and we draft Shedeur or take Ashton or trade down or whatever. Right? So the most likely scenario is perfect for us. The third most likely scenario, even better actually, third most likely scenario is perfect because then Jeanty and Shedeur are on the board and Graham. If we don't walk away, Soto, with a team-altering player or a metric shit ton of draft capital, Spytek needs to be tarred and feathered. We are in a great position. And this is only and there's another world where, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter somehow, right? Like it's possible, not likely, but Abdul Carter has like an ex-girlfriend that morning of the draft says like, hey, I've got triplets, and he's mine. You know what I mean? Like something can happen, right? Where that happens.
I got
Travis Hunter Travis Hunter had a DUI 7 years ago, and that comes out day of, whatever, right? We have no excuse to not walk away with a haul or a life-altering player.
I mean, for most of these, we're going to get one of the top elite players. There's 4. I've been saying it from the very beginning. There's 4 elite college players in this draft. 4 of them. There's Abdul Carter, there's Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, and Ashton Jeanty. Those are the guys who are the elite players. The numbers may not always say it, like with Mason Graham. The numbers don't always say it, but if you watch his tape, the dude, he's never blocked. He just either they get the ball out quicker than he can get there, or they just run away from him. The guy's incredible. So we should, if we get one of those 4 guys, I'm completely happy. Completely happy. And on top, and then after that, I really like Armand Membu because he's fucking 20 years old, and he's really good, and he has. I love DJ Glaze. I love what he did as a rookie. I think that he has better lateral movement than was given credit for coming out of college, but he's nowhere near mobile as Armand Membu. Armand Membu is way more mobile.
If we draft Membu, we're probably trading Kolton. I think that signals Kolton wants too much.
Not necessarily, because DJ Glaze was looked at as a guard. Like he played guard, so he can play the position, and you don't necessarily have to get rid of a guy. Because I mean, is there a big trade market for Kolton Miller?
For a good starting experienced left tackle? Absolutely. He's just below elite. Absolutely. He other than at the beginning of last season where he was hurt.
You don't get better by trading away good players, man.
I'm just saying, thinking like Spytek, thinking like a GM, you're like, all right, this guy wants too much. They let all their best defensive players walk.
Yeah, neither one of those guys were as good as they got paid for, though.
Well, that's good for us because that means someone's going to overpay for Kolton Miller.
But the thing is you're saying that Kolton Miller is a step under elite. There's nobody on the defense that we lost that was a step under elite.
My point being, quality, good players we could have kept. We could have afforded those guys. They're like, no, that's too much. We'll let you walk. And that was with Spytek not being able to have the foresight to be like, because these guys were all like, their contracts were up when he came on board, right? It wasn't like he could have manicured this to get something out of them before they're gone, right? It was out of his hands. Kolton Miller has his ability to, because he's got one more year on the contract. Mm-hmm. So he can make the move and get something for him, right? That's the other part that the past few GMs for the Raiders did terrible at, is getting value for guys before they, like, predicting you're not going to be able to keep them and getting something before they bounce. right?
Or you can pay them with a few funny years that are very tradable at the end and get a couple of years out of them while you're rounding the guys that you have into shape and doing the same thing maybe 2 years down the line.
There's options, right? There's plenty of options. I just think if
I just don't think it's like a foregone conclusion, like, oh, well, if they draft Membu, then Kolton Miller's out. I don't think that's the case because you don't build a good line by getting rid of your starting left tackle, who's still 30. He's 30, and he doesn't make a ton of money.
I don't want Kolton gone. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not saying you do, but I'm saying that you said that the logic is if we get Membu, then Kolton's gone. I don't think that's the case. I think you can live with Kolton Miller, DJ Glaze, and Armand Membu on the same line.
I think there's a 51% chance or greater that if they go Membu with 6, that Kolton Miller, we're going to try to trade him, get something for him, as opposed to give him another 3 years on a deal.
I think he can eventually be traded, but I don't know about this season, especially with Carroll not having a bunch of time to have to groom young linemen. That doesn't make sense to get rid of your starting left tackle if you're looking to win right now.
Well, it doesn't make sense to lose the majority of our top 5 best defensive players either. You know what I mean? Like they've made it clear that they're willing to let guys go.
The wording is completely different. A bad defense losing some of its starters is completely different than a one step
bad away from offense losing one of its starters.
No,
same thing.
No, it's not. You said he was one step away from being elite. Mm-hmm. None of the guys that we lost were one step away from anything. They were good players on a bad defense, and the guys that we got back, signed instead, are pretty comparable and a lot cheaper. So it's completely different.
I think Spytek is knows how to pinch a penny. I feel like he's cheap like me. We think the same way money wise, and it's like you have so much value with Kolton, and then you go tackle. It's like either it's someone's going to be on the bench most likely, right? Maybe you move Glaze to guard. I guess that possibility, right? Like that's
not a possibility. That's what it's going to be.
That's a possibility, right? You could do that. But does he want to pay Kolton Miller this money? I don't know. When you just draft somebody, I think it's a 51% chance or greater that they take him. We're moving on from Kolton. Could be wrong. Certainly could be wrong.
I just don't. I think your logic is faulty. When you use the defensive players that we lost, I think it's a completely different scenario.
Spytek's made it abundantly clear he's willing to let good players walk their expenses.
You're throwing that word around like these guys were all good players. They were
good.
Good for our team, but our defense.
Ron Merrick's a good free safety. He's a good free safety.
I mean, okay, he played better. He's definitely not worth the money he was paid, and he's not paid near the top of the safeties. So what does that say? He said follow the money. He's an above average safety. That's how he got paid.
Yeah,
and we thought he was overpaid.
Letting guys walk.
And we thought he was overpaid. So, and you're saying that Kolton Miller is a step way beyond, a big step beyond above average. He said one step away from elite. Mm-hmm. So that you're going by good, very good. You're going by all that to get right up next to elite. It's a different thing.
If you get a bunch of cap space and some draft picks out of them, then you've made a smart move. If you can fill that space with a rookie that can play, you think comparably or pretty close to it.
You're saving a way that you have to hold in the hopes that the guy you draft is going to be him.
Yeah,
he's still good now.
Welcome to being a GM. Yeah, you got to take those risks sometimes.
Well, I mean, I don't think that not signing those defensive players that we let walk was much of a risk. It's a lot riskier to let go of a one step away from being elite left tackle.
I mean, the cupboards are bare on our defense. Outside the defensive line, we got dime store linebackers, completely untested DBs. I mean, it's a risk, man. We're going to the defense unless we start filling some holes. Like that's why I like the Mason Graham pick so much. We're just like, okay, let's just have a top 3 defensive line, and it doesn't matter if our dime store linebackers and completely untested DBs aren't great because they're not going to get it. The quarterback's not going to get a chance to do shit, right? You're going to have 1.3 seconds to get the ball out. Just play press coverage and let the defensive line handle it, right? Because that's kind of what we got to do here because the defense is so depleted. It wasn't good, and 3 of the best players on a bad defense walked, or, got overpaid somewhere else. And that's, with what was paid, I get it, right? Like it made sense. It's Kolton.
I think Landon Roberts is a little bit better than you're giving him credit for.
Who?
Landon Roberts. He's unproven. He's unproven. He led Pittsburgh in tackles 2 years ago. The reason he didn't play last year is because they signed Patrick Queen, one of the best linebackers in the league. Okay, and Landon Roberts is not Patrick Queen.
31 other NFL teams didn't want to give him more than 1.4 million that we're giving him. That's long snapper money. That's
it, man.
Right? Devin White's even less, right? Like I hope you're like, no. When we picked him up and we did the research, we're like, okay, Roberts, this could, maybe there's some unpolished gem in here, right? That we can make work. But he's still a dime store linebacker. Like you can go to an antique shop and polish something up and sell it for more, right? Certainly possible. He is a dime store linebacker.
I don't
All
agree.
Of our linebackers are.
You're Matthew Lillard in that scouting movie. You're looking at the numbers, and that's okay because those are valuable.
The numbers tell you how the league feels about him.
But it doesn't tell you how good of a player he actually is, though. There's reasons behind things, and you take a look at him actually playing. It's not everything, and I think you're basing everything on that. It's a lot.
If 31 other teams are like, nah,
okay,
you can have
it's a lot to you because you want to be right. I'm saying that there's more to it.
That's how it works in the NFL. Is guys that are good get paid.
You know exactly what you're talking about,
right?
Sure.
That's not the case.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you're the guy that's
set up in a bunch really early today. We were like 5 minutes into the show, and you're already like, "Well, I guess you just want to argue. I guess you don't think so."
No, I mean, I would have liked to at least give myself a chance to explain why, and you didn't give me that, so I'm not gonna.
You always have a chance to explain why.
No, that's not true.
You always
have. Earlier on in the show,
my ears are wide open.
I was even now I can't explain why. You're still talking over me.
I'm telling you how open I am.
Okay, there you go.
So money doesn't say where guys.
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying that you know what you're talking about. You're locked in. You're the guru.
You went to Knott's Berry Farm yesterday. How are you in such a bad mood?
You know what? I really like to have our conversations be conversations, and I'm trying to explain why I think certain mock drafts are more useful than others. And no, they're all bullshit. They're horseshit. They're snake shit. They're this shit. Like, okay, all right.
No, and then I listened to your.
And no, you didn't. You did not listen at all.
Talked about Dame Brugler's mock draft for several minutes.
It was probably a good 8 to 10 minutes after that when I was able to sneak it in later.
And I listened, and it was good stuff because we both agreed.
It could have happened right away when we're talking about the topic.
So I'm not letting you talk fast enough for you not to get your panties in a bunch.
No, it's about the topic that we're talking about. I had to bring it back to the topic later to say what I wanted to say. I don't like getting my panties in a bunch. I'm not willing to engage in something where you're saying you're wrong. Okay, fine. I made my point. You want to make your point, and that's fine, and we can move on. That's okay. This is not first take. We don't have to like.
No. I don't want. I'm just saying, like,
with it.
Let's start with. Okay, well, can we agree that the facts, like that, some facts are? Let's agree on some facts, and if they're wrong, stop me. Right? The facts are that 31 other NFL teams weren't going to pay our linebackers diddly squat. They're getting special teams money. Can we agree on that?
I don't know, RJ. I
can't agree that $1 million a year for a starting linebacker.
I haven't looked at other teams and what they're paying their linebackers.
Okay, that's fair. I haven't either. I don't know the full complement roster salary of every linebacker in the NFL. I do know that $1 million is way below the vast majority of starters. Can we agree on that?
Well, what is the Landon Roberts getting paid?
I know Devin White's $1 million. I think Landon's 1 point. If you space it out, 1 point whatever per year. Isn't it 5 years total or $5 million total?
A 1 year, $3 million contract.
$3 million. Excuse me. I apologize. $3 million, and then Devin White's the what? The 1 point.
He's the one at 1.05 or something like that.
Okay, so we're averaging $2 million a year with our two starting linebackers, right? Not a lot of money, right? Again, we looked at Roberts a little bit more. We're like, okay, yeah, I think we can polish this turd up a little bit, and that's why you go to the picking part.
Call him a turd, man.
Okay, maybe a little. Fine, I don't want to fight with you. Maybe a little too harsh. But he was picked up for very little, right? Very, very little for starting linebacker money. And so the idea that you load up the defensive line to make everyone else, when Devin White had all those tackles, right, is because he had the best front seven in front of him in Tampa, right? Like that's
Vita Van and Dominican Sue, yeah.
That's what he's used to. You know what I mean? That's when he produces. Like, fuck, dude.
And that's why I thought too that Mason Graham would be a great pick, because you just make a good line great with that pick, and it allows your fast linebacker like a Devin White to run like crazy. So, we are agreeing on a lot of things. I just think that,
and that's what I'm saying to like, I think how we got to this was the defense was bad last year and then was depleted of a lot of our better players. And Spytek's taking that risk, is like, okay, we're going to let these guys walk because we're not going to pay them this money. It's not worth it. We're going to load up the defensive line to make their lives as easy as possible. And I think if they go tackle at number 6, I think that kind of goes into not exactly the same thing, to your point, but I think it goes into his line of thinking is like, yeah, we want to win now, but we're not going to hoard all these guys on our team that want a lot of money. We're going to let guys walk that want more than we're willing to pay.
Well, if you take a look at some of the stops where Spytek was, they did take care of their best players. So they're not going to pay everybody, but the best players on their team, they're going to keep, because you don't let a Kolton Miller walk on the promise that a rookie is going to be your left tackle. You already have the left tackle. You get rid of him when he's no longer good. You don't get rid of a good left tackle. He's one of the top 5 premium positions. Like, you wouldn't get rid of one of your best corners. He's one of the best corners in the league. You wouldn't do that. It's one of the premium positions. So I just think that you can't apply the same logic to a Kolton Miller, because he plays a premium position and he's a step away from elite. So those are the type of guys that you keep around.
Yeah, and it's not apples to apples with, say, Merrick, for sure. But I just think it's a general Spytek mentality that we've seen this offseason that I think play into it. And I think adding, spending that much draft capital at a guy at that position says, okay, what can we get for Miller to make this worth it? And still,
I think letting the defensive guys. I think letting the defensive guys go that we did would be more of a comparable on the offensive side, would be like trading away Aiden O'Connell and trading away like Michael Mayer. That's more of a comp. Like, they have flashes, they're good, but they're not like Kolton Miller left tackle good.
See, so we got out of that. We came out of that on top. We did it. Smile. We got out of that.
I mean,
learn something.
I had to stop engaging in that for it to change.
I miss when we were able to like argue and interrupt each other and nitpick at each other.
I just want to do it anymore, man.
I know, obviously. I made that abundantly clear. Let's talk about Spytek. That's how we've bantered about his handling of the cap. But what about his draft strategy? Because, and I know I'm a little bit more obsessed with this than you are. You don't care as much of like who's making decisions and why and how. Like, I care. So I get a little more worked up about it than you. But with Spytek, we're like, oh, what did he do in the past? It's like, well, how much decision making did he really have in Tampa? How much did he have in Cleveland? Like, what did, was he number 2 and the GM was just like, have at it, or is he just nothing, right? We don't know. There's like 4 people in the world that know, and we're not one of them. So what's his strategy? Well, you can get something when he talks. When he's speaking in generalities, I think you can get something out of this. And this is him on like a Raiders an actual Raiders, like the team podcast, right? Not an independent journalist. It's their guys. So he's in a safe space. And he was asked general draft strategy. It's a little bit long. but I think it's good.
Certainly based some on need. Certainly it's based on the caliber of player that you're watching. And the ideal scenario is those two things match up. And then that's the perfect draft pick. But that very, very rarely happens. I think back to, to give a real life example of this, I think back to our first draft in Cleveland when I was there in 2010. It was a draft where we had conversations back and forth on Eric Berry and Joe Hayden and who the right pick was at that point, if they both were available. It turns out at 7, there was only one available. It was Joe Hayden, as Eric went 5th that year. But we had a safety in the second round that we really liked, that we really felt good about. So I think ultimately, while it was really close between Eric and Joe, we felt like the drop off from corner at Joe in 1 to what we would get in the second round was a lot greater than the drop off from Eric to a player named TJ Ward. And that's ultimately probably what we would have ended up doing had we had to make the decision. We did not, because Eric got drafted by the Chiefs that year and Joe was there waiting for us. But that's kind of a real life example of what's the right order to do this in. And it's got a lot to do with your needs as an organization, but also the players that you can kind of project might still be available at your later picks.
So that sounds like super generalities, and it is, but you can compare it to other things, right? Tom Telesco was like best player available, and he's like one of the few GMs that like stuck to it, right? That's why he went tight end in the first round last season after going Michael Mayer in the second round, right? And then there's, John Gruden, just whatever the fuck his balls say at that moment. He's just knee-jerk. Right? Oh, that guy looks like a grinder. Let's do that right now, right? And then there's Spytek, which again, he's spoken very generalities, but at least it's something. It sounds like, and you tell me if this is what you heard, 1A is best player available, 1B is need, and then whatever is distant third behind that is playing the value of the draft of the board. If there's a bunch of great safeties, maybe we don't need to go safety at 1, etc. There's almost no guards later in the draft. We should probably move this guard up a little bit earlier. That's what I heard. What did you hear?
I heard just a lot of the same. He just seems, because even though he wasn't making the decisions where he was, he learned from the guys making the decision. So you can take some of just the logic behind their picks. And I think from where he came from, they put a big emphasis on the guys up front. And if they're not a big guy up front, they have to be a very special player at a premium position. Mm-hmm. If it's not an offensive line or a defensive lineman, or an edge rusher, I should say, or a tackle, it's going to be a Mike Evans at wide receiver, like a special guy like that. Or, the quarterback or whatever. But because he said, when need and best player available meet, that's the perfect pick, right? Well, it's a good thing we have a lot of needs. We have a lot of needs. We have a need on the offensive line. We have a need in the secondary. We have a need in the backfield. We need out wide and a wide receiver. I mean, we have a lot of needs. So I just think that he's trying to say a lot without saying much. But I think you can get a lot more from his previous drafts that he was a part of than what a lot of people are thinking. I really do think he wants to build the lines. He wants to build the lines strong, and because look, we talked about the big four, right? We talked about the big four elite players. There's normally 1 to 10 is like the top 10 picks, right? Those are those are better than everyone else. There's 11 to like 40-ish. You can see an argument there. This year, it's like 11 to like 70. Those guys are all lumped together. Maybe even a little bit more, where a guy can go in the late first round or he can go in the third round. It all depends. But they're still really good. They're good enough to go within those rounds, within that range. So if you don't get one of those top guys, and I'm even saying 10 as, being very gracious, there may only be like 7 or 8 really top end players. And then there's a big group of 9, 10 to, whatever, 70, 80, whatever. And those guys are all kind of like in the same group. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that now, that the group of elite players are just a couple of guys. So if you do trade out of that area and you don't get an elite player, you better get a bunch of those second tier guys.
Three second-round picks or something.
Oh, yeah,
because you're gonna make it up in mass.
Because it's just as good as getting a late first round if you get like a middle second round, because they're lumped together.
Well, and it's just volume, right? Like people are saying, like, oh man, how can you say no to like numbers like Mason Graham or Jeanty or whoever? It's like, because we got needs all over the fucking board,
all over the place,
all over. There's maybe
if you guys want to know what I'm doing right now, I'm throwing shit at my cats because they're messing around with stuff, and I'm finding things to throw at them.
I'm gonna get you a BB gun.
No, nope,
you're just gonna really fuck them up. You gotta send a message.
God, these guys.
Because the argument's like, well, how could you say no to like a franchise altering player? It's like, because we need 12 of them. How many rooms, how many position groups are we like happy with? Like every group can get better. Every group can get better. But how many position groups are like, okay, that's a good group. I'm happy with our group. How many rooms? Tight end, kickers.
I like our defensive line. They're really good.
D-line for sure. D-line for sure.
I mean, when you talk about
quarterback,
when you talk about a quarterback room, you're really talking about the starting quarterback, because I mean, these elite teams don't have like amazing backups. They're all in on their starter. So I mean, I'm absolutely content with our quarterback room.
So there's like 3 or 4 rooms where you're like,
oh yeah,
and again,
receiver needs help, offensive line needs help, linebackers need help, secondary needs help for sure.
It's a ghost town in our defense off the defensive line, right? So it's like, yeah, man, like, did you want Mason Graham? I'd be doing backflips. I'd be super happy, jacked, right? Number 6, get Mason Graham, make the defensive strength credit. What if we trade number 6 for 3 seconds? And now we get a corner we desperately need, a wide receiver we desperately need, and a linebacker we desperately need. I'm doing 3 backflips for each one of those positions filled, right? So it's like, don't get like people. I think people fall in love with like the sexy player, right? And I get it. I do it. I'm drooling over Mason Graham. I'm not drooling over like 3 hypothetical second rounders we need. But when I really sit and think about it and like talk it out with you, Soto, it's like, that's very important, man. And even the room and even the rooms where we're doing okay, they all need depth. We all need like,
hell, I would trade back twice. I would trade back twice in the first round if we could. Definitely trade back twice. Because look, once you trade out of the top 10, you're not getting an elite, the elite of the elite players in this draft.
I would say elite.
I would say 8,
7 or 8. 7.
Yeah.
T-Max only up there because he's the only good wide receiver. I don't think he's a top 7 franchise altering wide receiver. Yeah, he's.
I don't think there's as much difference between T-Mac and Jaden Higgins. I really don't think there's that much difference. I also think that Burden fits Chip Kelly's offense a lot better because he's a run after catch type of guy.
I don't think Jalen Walker is like insane. I don't think he's number 6 or 7 guy, right? Like you've got like 6 or 7 dudes where you're like, this guy's insane. He's going in the top 10, no doubt. After that, like I'd rather trade down. If Jalen Walker's the best player on the board for us and we trade, what we say we trade down to 10 and he's the best guy, what can we get? Right? Can we get can we get down to number 25 and throw a second in there? I'd rather do that. To your point, Soto, I would go even more extreme. I would say like 1 to 7. We've got some fucking studs, like was trying to Brock Bowers at a different position, right? Guys like that. 8 to like 25. I don't think they're worth the position. I don't, especially with how much depth that what we need later. Like I said, I want 2 running backs in this draft. We need guard help. We need like 3 corners. Like let's start throwing picks at these guys.
I would definitely trade back a couple times if we could into like the mid-20s. You could still get a Josh Simmons if Josh Simmons, he's healthy. Josh Simmons is healthy, okay? if
I feel like
Josh
your
Simmons
cats have been
did not-
watching Jackson Powers Johnson tape. And there's
if Josh Simmons didn't hurt his knee, he'd be the first tackle taken. If Siobhan Ravel didn't hurt his knee, he'd be the first corner taken. Those guys can be made available in the late first, early second round. And you can get both of them. Both of them. And these guys are healthy now. You know, a torn ACL isn't what it used to be. Okay. These guys are coming back less than a year. Okay. And you can still get a player better than a Will Campbell, better than a Armand Membu in Josh Simmons in the late first round, and then you can get a corner better than a Jade Barron or a Will Johnson in a Siobhan Ravel. You can get those guys. That's why this draft is insane, because it's extremely top heavy, but the middle is just packed full of really good players, and you're going to see a lot of those players go. You're going to see a late run on running backs, because players aren't going to be like, dude, I have 18 running backs rated the same. Why am I going to pick one now? I'm going to be able to get one in a round or two. And a lot of teams are going to think that way.
That's the only reason why, like, the Mason Graham at 6 makes sense, is because that makes up for 3 defensive players we can't get. Because the D-line will be so dominant. It's like, okay, we're rolling the dice with however you want to describe our linebackers and a bunch of who knows who our cornerbacks are going to be. Maybe we can get away with that because the D-line is just fucking mauling everybody, right? Like,
you win with greatness.
That's how, like, that's what the pick has to be. Number 6 has to be so good he makes up for 3 other players, basically, right? Like, if it's jeanty, he has to make up for 2 guards we're not drafting. If it's Mason Graham, he needs to make up for linebackers and DBs. Like, to be number 6, or you trade down. You trade down and fill up all those other holes.
You don't pass up on great. And Mason Graham makes your defensive line a great defensive line. I don't know that any other player, singular player, makes that position group great.
Maybe the best in football. Or arguably, at worst, what? 3? Top 3? Top 2?
Is Armand Membu or Will Campbell going to make our offensive line great? I don't think so.
No.
I mean, Ashton Jeanty can possibly make our running back room great if we're getting 2023 Raheem Mostert, which we might get a closer version that we might think. Raheem Mostert had a fractured sternum last year. I got a fractured sternum once after a car accident, and I couldn't even sleep. Like, I had to sleep sitting up. It was awful. I couldn't take a deep breath. He played the entire season with a cracked sternum. That's crazy. So I can see him coming back. So I can see that combo of running backs being like, well, especially in this system, like, okay, maybe. But no other player is going to make their position group great. No singular corner or receiver or anything like that or linebacker is going to make the group great. Graham can make the defensive line great,
which will make up for everything else in the defense. So that's what number 6 has to be, really. Seriously. Like, if you're drafting top 5, top 6, top 7, you're not just drafting like, oh, that guy's going to be really good at his position. It's like, no, he alters that side of the ball. He needs to be that. So a first, a quarterback, a wide receiver that's uncoverable. He has to alter the game. He can't just be good. Brock Bowers, he's the offense. He was the offense last season. Like, and he was 13, right? So it's like, it has to be that. And Mason Graham fits the bill. Or we get 3 seconds. All right, we went way long on that one, which is fine. So let's do our, where did my What Up Windbags banner go? There we go. Are you ready to do some What Up Windbags?
Yes, sir.
Sam Deman. We need to plug some holes. All 3 of them.
Ooh.
Giggity.
Naughty, naughty boy.
Giggity. Let's take his very, very dirty joke and make it practical. What are the 3 biggest holes on our team?
Corner.
That you can be Phil. How do I want to phrase this? Just the 3 weakest groups or the 3 biggest singular holes? Because we need multiple corners. And so maybe the need at corner, running back was the worst room in football last season, but I think one good running back can make it decent, can make it, fine. Like we can work with it. With that metric, 3 biggest holes.
Corner. I think corner is a big one. Wide receiver
is number 2.
Yeah. Wide receiver and interior offensive line.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a question, honestly. I mean, linebacker is pretty close, but look, you don't have to necessarily be like a super athlete to be a good linebacker. You just need to be able to be smart and get everyone else in position. Mm-hmm. You make a play here and there, fine. But as long as you can get everyone, you know, you're the quarterback of the defense, you know what to do, get everyone else, up to speed on what's happening. You can just be a guy and you'll be more than fine.
Let's hope so, because that's all we got. That linebacker. Dom Grove 5. What makes next year's quarterback class so much better? People do realize Manning will not be in the draft. Also, it makes people think we will have a top 5 pick and get a top quarterback prospect next year. Don't say we can trade up. Do you have a point, Soto?
Well, he's taken away 2 major things that are very strong possibilities. He doesn't know that Arch Manning's not going to be in the draft next season. He's assuming that to make his point stronger. He doesn't know that we can't trade up and get a quarterback. He's assuming that to make his point stronger. So if you have to put a lot of conditions on your point's not very strong.
Is Manning's 3rd year is next year?
Yes.
How does this? Okay.
He's a redshirt freshman this year. His 2nd year.
His 2nd year's next year.
No, he's a redshirt freshman this year.
He's a redshirt freshman this year. He
was a redshirt freshman last season. This upcoming season will be a redshirt sophomore. It'll be his 3rd year.
Got it.
Dude, there's a lot of guys behind Arch Manning, dude. Drew Aller is out there. That guy, that Nico kid, I think he just signed with UCLA. Mm-hmm. That kid's out there. That kid's
from Tennessee, now at UCLA.
Dude, Lenoris Sellers from South Carolina. That kid gets better and better and better. That kid's next Cam Ward. That kid's amazing. There's a lot of guys, dude. Freaking Garrett Nussmeier. Cade Klubnik, I think the guy from Clemson. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys, dude. There's a lot of guys out there that are really good. And Carson Beck went back for another year.
And every single year, there's a quarterback that comes out of nowhere. Every single year, there's a guy on his 3rd team, on his 5th year, who puts up 4,000 yards. You're like, I didn't see that coming. And he's
keep an eye on
1st rounder.
John Mateer from Washington State. That kid, it's hard to argue with something that's so obvious when you're arguing a position that's obviously flawed. There's more talent in next year's draft quarterback class than there is in this year's draft quarterback class. It's just, you can tell. And there is a lot more talent. A lot of guys that were going to be at the top of this class, the Drew Allers, the Nussmeyers, the Becks, those guys were going to be in the mix to be in that group of, 3, 4, 5. Those guys are going to come out next year. And they're going to be even better. That's why.
True Raider 22. Trade the F down. Why he's using such harsh letters? Bad.
You type your mother with those fingers?
Oh, Marion. So our next weigh-in show in Montreal, it's the same weekend as Mother's Day. So I'm pitching the idea that they do you kiss your mother with that mouth segment where you have to impersonate a fighter and trash talk the opponent as if the mom is watching. So just like clean digs, just like sick mom burns. I think the guys can pull it off. Anyway.
I think they can.
Omari and the running back is 8
together. You guys know all the inside stuff.
Yeah. And I can just see Cormier and Dean just being like, you fiddlestick.
Cormier is gonna always do a little extra, like a borderline cheating extra stuff just to get an edge.
Not borderline cheating. He will flagrantly.
Flagrant.
He will pole vault over the line to cheat and have everyone see it, and then still like throw the belt over his shoulder and be like, "Yep, I'm champion. Fuck you."
That's when you guys got him on the John Jones thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was freaking amazing.
Trade the F down, harsh letters. Omarion the running back is AP 2.0. Draft him in the first. Okay. Wide receiver Luther Burden in the second. Any quarterback in the third. O-line in the third. 4 through 7 best player available.
Makes sense. I mean, this is what I've talked about.
Yeah,
there's once you get past like 12, 13, it's just what's your flavor. From that point, from the mid first round to like the middle of the third round, those guys could all get jumbled up and mixed around, and no one's going to bat an eye. No one's going to say, "Oh, he was really overdrafted." No. I think like the Michael Williams type of thing guy, like 12, 13, once he's gone, everyone else is like, okay, this can be interchangeable. Mm-hmm. Michael Williams might get drafted a lot higher than people might think too.
If it's not like Mason Graham at 6, even Jeanty, it's not what I'm preferring, but I get it. I can see the benefit. I can be like, okay, we can make this work. Okay. Dude, still rather have 3 second rounders, but
he's oh god, dude, he is so freaking good. And like I said last week,
what's he bad at? Like what's like his pass blocking is just like okay.
His pass blocking is probably the worst part of his game.
The worst part of his game, and it's like,
but he never had to do it. That's the thing. Yeah. He never had to do it.
Well, he will here a little bit.
Well, of course.
But everything else, it's like
he's got plenty of football IQ. He's plenty athletic enough to be able to get better at
speed, it. His balance.
Dude, his contact balance is crazy, dude. He reminds me of like Bo Jackson from Tecmo Bowl. Not the bouncing off, but like you hit him and it's like he just shrugs you off and keeps going. Mm. He's that good. He had almost 2,000 yards after contact last season. He didn't have a great offensive line. People want to talk about, his offensive line. Who was he playing against? Who was he playing with? He had 1,900 yards after contact. He did all that work pretty much on his own.
You throw into a Chip Kelly scheme?
God, dude. Chip Kelly just finds a way to get people in space. Can you imagine that? Just getting him out there just to make one guy miss and you get 20 yards?
You put Brock Bowers and Jeanty both in the backfield.
God, dude.
And you're like, what the fuck's going to happen? Well, what do we do?
You get a Luther Burden? Oh, Jesus. Dude, Luther Burden is another running back, but he plays receiver. He is a younger, faster Deebo Samuel.
This trade back thing. I've been screaming Mason Graham for like 4 weeks, but this trade back stuff is just getting me so hot and bothered, man. Just loading up.
If it's not Mason Graham, or if it's not one of the top 4 guys, you just trade back.
We can get it.
Trade back because the quarterback's there. There's people going to want the people are going to want the high end offensive lineman. The Michael Williams may also be a guy that people like a lot. I think people are kind of on Shamar Stewart. Bill Parcells had a great line about college players. If they don't bite as puppies, they're not going to bite as dogs. And Shamar Stewart had painfully low production for how big and strong and athletic he is. Mm. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of guys that can go and people would want to trade up for because there's only so many of those elite players.
Well, we'll find out in 1 hour, 19 or 1 day, 19 hours, 25 minutes, 41 seconds from now. I'll be in the air. I'll be flying to Kansas City. I want people to think I'm there working for the UFC, but really I'm just there to shit in Patrick Mahomes' mailbox. Shh. It's our secret. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So we won't be live, but we'll do Sunday. We'll go live, do a recap.
Sunday will work.
All 3 days. Sound good, everybody? Well, you don't have a choice. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Until then,
you don't get upset.
Knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.